Alo các bạn, để đánh dấu người tị nạn Cộng sản Việt Nam có mặt ở Mỹ đã 50 năm, tức là 1975 cho đến năm 2025 thì hôm nay đài tin tức đài KCOA có một cái chương trình nói về cái khía cạnh khác của người tị nạn Cộng sản Việt Nam ở Mỹ. Đó là ngành nail. Và ngành nail nhiều người đã biết là nó liên quan với một cái bà, phải gọi là bà ha. Bà diễn viên Tippi Hedren. Mình gọi là bà tức là năm nay bà ta đã 95 tuổi. Và nhiều người biết nó liên quan với một cái diễn viên Hollywood, nhưng mà nhiều người không biết là nó phát nguồn từ đâu. Và hôm nay cái chương trình đài tin tức này nè có nói đến nó phát nguồn từ 20 người phụ nữ tị nạn Cộng sản Việt Nam. Và nó bắt đầu không phải ở Los Angeles hay là Hollywood ha. Nó bắt đầu ở Bắc California, vùng Sacramento. Đây là tấm hình trắng đen mấy bạn có thể thấy đây. Có thể thấy là bà Tippi đang đứng chụp hình chung với những người phụ nữ Việt Nam với những chiếc tà áo dài truyền thống. Và mình cũng muốn nói thêm luôn, công nhận là bà Tippi này rất là tốt bụng, rất là nhân đạo, phải nói là rất là nhân đạo. Vì sau khi 1975 khi mà biết có rất là nhiều người Việt Nam đang vượt biển, tức là đang trên biển, trên đường đi đến những nước tự do, lên đơn trên biển, coi như là sống chết trên biển rất là nguy hiểm, thì bà Tippi này tình nguyện qua Úc lên những chiếc tàu lớn ra Biển Đông để mà giúp đỡ những người đang gặp nạn nè. Và không chỉ ngưng ở đó, khi mà sau khi những người tị nạn Cộng sản này đến những nước tự do như Mỹ á, thì bà diễn viên này tiếp tục giúp đỡ ha, bằng cách là đi tìm nghề, thí dụ như là nghề may. Và trong nhóm những người tị nạn Cộng sản này có 20 người phụ nữ bắt đầu học làm nail. Và sau đó mấy bạn cũng biết cái ngành nail của trong cộng đồng Việt Nam ở Mỹ như thế nào ha. Và nhiều người nghĩ là ngành nail bắt đầu từ ở Nam Cali, tức là vùng Hollywood hay là Beverly Hills. Nhưng mà không phải ha. Nó bắt nguồn từ Bắc California, tức là 20 người phụ nữ này nè học nghề làm nail, học nghề nail ở vùng Sacramento. Và trong video này mình xin chia sẻ cái video clip đầu tiên. Đó là một cái chương trình tin tức của KCOA. Họ làm về kỷ niệm 50 năm người Việt Nam sống ở Mỹ 50 năm nay ha. Những người tị nạn Cộng sản Việt Nam 50 năm nay ở Mỹ. Và cái video thứ nhì đó là cuộc phỏng vấn của bà diễn viên Tippi Hedren cách đây 10 năm. Và năm nay bà ta đã 95 tuổi rồi. Xin mời mấy bạn xem những cái video quý giá này. Xin cảm ơn mấy bạn.
A manicure or a pedicure?
When a nail was filed inside Moonshine & Co. Nail Bar.
I wanted to showcase our culture and our people.
It's Vietnamese-American entrepreneur Leanne Glanker, proudly honoring her industry's legacy of risks, hope, and success.
And I want to share that story with everyone.
It dates back 50 years to the fall of Saigon. Refugees escaping communist Vietnam arrived in Sacramento in 1975.
Bless your heart.
Bused to a resettlement center in Placer County called Weimar Hope Village.
It was such a horrible time.
Actress Tippi Hedren was an early supporter. Best known for The Birds, an Alfred Hitchcock 1960s classic, the Hollywood humanitarian paid a visit to Hope Village.
Many of them lost their families, they lost their homes, they lost their jobs, they lost everything.
She knew these women who didn't speak English needed to make a living.
I noticed they all loved my fingernails.
So she flew up her Hollywood manicurist to show them how to create long, glossy nails.
And they'd practice on each other, they'd practice on me, and it was, we had a great time doing it.
But could it be a career? Hedren turned to Citrus Heights Beauty College.
And I said, okay, I will do it.
Becky Hamilton still runs the school and recalls quickly coming up with a curriculum.
I wasn't quite ready. A bus pulled up in front of the college and they began to come out.
She held onto the photos of the original 20. Some listed Hope Village as their home address on their enrollment papers.
This was the area that they actually did clients.
350 hours of training later, inside this very classroom.
So this picture was taken where?
Right here.
All 20 women graduated. Tippi Hedren is in the back.
It was absolutely our privilege to do that for them.
Becky Hamilton down here up front.
And their work ethics was amazing. That's why they did so well. Not because of me, but because of the work ethics that they had.
A path was paved to a profession. Word spread among the refugees, and the women moved across California. Some opened up their own nail salons. And soon, the Vietnamese-American nail industry exploded across America.
80% of all nail techs in California are Vietnamese, and that's so amazing to me.
Inside her nail salon,
I owe them.
Leanne proudly displays that graduation photo, saying the women in it inspired her own Vietnam refugee mother to get her nail license.
And so how could I not honor them?
A cultural revolution and a legacy traced to a simple manicure, a Hollywood star, and a local beauty instructor.
I love hearing people say, I didn't know that, I didn't know that, and it's right here.
Curtis Ming, KCRA 3 News.
Well, how about that? Well, the interview, by the way, with Tippi Hedren that you saw there, that was 10 years ago. That was with Vietnamese television. She's now 95 and has retired from giving interviews. Hedren has stayed in touch, though, with the women through several.
In 1975, after Saigon had fell, Vietnam was in the midst of chaos, and so many of the Vietnamese people were leaving the country, and and it was such a horrible time for all of them. Many of them lost their families, they lost their homes, they lost their jobs, they lost everything, their country. In order to get away from a communist way of life. And at that time, I was a relief worker, a volunteer relief worker for an organization called Food for the Hungry. And during that time, we leased a battleship from the Australian Navy, and we cruised the South China Seas helping the boat people. And we could bring them on board the ship. We couldn't keep them on board because of international law, but we could give them fresh clothing, we could feed them, repair their boats. I mean, those ridiculous little boats. I mean, these people really wanted to get away, and so many of them were lost at sea. It was a horrible time. But what we could do, along with helping them with just feeding them and fresh clothing and that sort of thing, we could guide them with our great big battleship. We could guide these little boats to a safe shore so that they wouldn't get into another situation, because many of them left. They didn't have compasses. They didn't know where they were out on the sea. It was really a terrifying time. And we also had a facility outside of, in Northern California, outside of Weimar, and we leased it was an abandoned tuberculosis sanitarium. And there were lots of great big buildings, lots of rooms, and we were bringing in the Vietnamese refugees and trying to help them find a job, find a sponsor, become assimilated into the United States. And we, as an example, we would take them to the supermarkets, because there were no supermarkets in Vietnam. So we were showing them a way of our life here and helping them. And we tried to find jobs for them. And I brought in seamstresses and typists, so that they could learn a craft. And I got to know a group of women, you know, fairly well. And they were these incredibly wonderful women, and I grew to love them so much. And they were all trying so hard to make the United States their home. And with trying to find a job for them and different things, I noticed they all loved my fingernails. You know, they really were fascinated with my fingernails. And so many of them commented over a period of time that I thought, well, you know, this might be a really good idea for them to learn how to do the manicure at that time, which was a fabric wrap. And it made the nails very, very strong. And it was becoming very popular in the United States. And so I asked my own manicurist if she would come up from the Los Angeles area up to Weimar in Northern California and teach the girls how to do this manicure. Because I thought this would be a really wonderful job for them. And so she came up once a week for about 8 weeks. And each time she'd come up, she'd give them a procedure to work on. And they'd practice on each other, they'd practice on me, and it was, we had a great time doing it. And after the course was over, I contacted a beauty school, because in order to work as a manicurist, you have to have all of the licenses and the cosmetology license and that sort of thing. So we arranged for that, for them to go to school, and they all got their teaching and their licenses, and off they went. And it became, of course, the Vietnamese have a wonderful way of communicating, and they find each other, and all of a sudden these women were so successful at this job, and they were getting to the point where they had their own shops, and it was pretty impressive. And the word just spread like wildfire, and well, it has become now a $7 billion business. It's huge. It's absolutely wonderful. And it gave all of these people an opportunity to get into the United States and have a job, being able to take care of their families, and it was amazing.
Yes. So why did you decide at that time to help them with the nail job, not other job?
Well, that just sort of fell into place, because it was a very popular thing to do in the United States, to have beautiful nails. And so it just seemed like a very, very good business for these women. And it was. And it turned into this incredible, it just grew like, it was a phenomenon, actually.